Saturday night, the ABC debut. Bit of a slow main card, bit of a slow prelims. Main card was fantastic.
Yeah, the main card was absolutely fantastic.
Fantastic. And the main event was, the masterpiece by Max Holloway, the win over Calvin Kattar, 5 rounds to none. There was a 50-42 in there. Our friend, the judge, Ben Cartledge, telling me 50-43. So that's, a 10-8. I mean, just an absolute beatdown, incredible performance. And you said, DC, and I wonder if you feel this way 2 days later, finest performance you've ever seen inside the octagon?
I don't think I've ever seen anything like it. And I know we've witnessed some great things. And people, you and I talked about this a little bit. Sometimes people will say a quick performance doing something that's unexpected, Conor versus Aldo. I believe Conor versus Alvarez was a better performance for McGregor. I think over time, the way that Max Holloway was able to dominate Calvin Kattar in boxing, in the way that Calvin Kattar has looked boxing, the activity, the sharpness, the flow, the freeness, everything that Max Holloway did should be applauded. And I truly do believe I've never seen anything like it. And I'm starting to build a long list of fights that I've watched next to the octagon. I never felt that buzz inside of me like I did when I left that arena Saturday. I could not come down. I couldn't come down from watching what I had saw. And it was Calvin Kattar's toughness was on full display. But Max Holloway with touch, body shot, punch. I mean, did he kick? Did Max kick? No, swing. Max threw 3 spinning back kicks over the course of the whole fight. This was a boxing fight with 4-ounce gloves, and he landed 400 punches. That's crazy.
Yeah,
That's
I believe
absurd.
at one point he called himself the best boxer in the UFC.
In the octagon.
What was that like when he was talking to you?
It's like, so there's 2 things, right?
Yeah.
There's 2 things, right? One, you're watching a guy in there that you care about, right? That's my buddy, right? So I've seen my friends lose next to the cage. I've seen them win, but I'm watching a guy that I care about a lot, and he's fighting the absolute perfect fight. Then he addresses us. But not only is he addressing us, he is calling back to interviews, right? He's remembering in those moments that this dude said that in boxing, I'm a freshman. He's the senior. He's like, I'm going to show him. He said that in an interview last week with MMA Junkie, and then he said it in the fight. He goes, call me a freshman. The freshman came to play tonight. The freshman came to play. Wow. And then he's like, the freshman came to play. And his eyes, his eyes were so intense looking at us. I was like, oh my goodness. Who is this? This isn't Max Holloway. He has left his body now. He's on. The freshman came to play today. Then Calvin's like punching. Max is all whoop, whoop, whoop. Oh, it was amazing. Max like doing all this. And then Max goes, I'm the best boxer in the UFC. Boom. Like without even looking at him. Bro, it was like LeBron closing his eyes and shooting a 3-pointer on the Rockets last week. Max turned and went, wow. No look right hand. Kattar just is so tough that he didn't go out. Bro, I've never seen anybody in such a flow. That flow state was insane.
Yeah, okay, so then let me ask you this, because the numbers were nuts. I mean, the significant strikes, the records, all that stuff. But
you know what's crazy? One quick thing about the numbers.
Yeah.
When I looked at the screen after the fight, the unofficial stats said 290 of 6-something. By the time they really tallied it up, they added 150 strikes.
Wow.
Like, how crazy is that? When I left and I looked at the screen, it said Max Holloway landed 440 punches or something like that. Once they actually tallied up the strikes, it went to 450. How do you add 150 strikes? That means that the CompuBox numbers couldn't keep up.
Not CompuBox. What are you talking about?
Or whatever it is. Whatever that shit. What is it called? What is the strike thing?
It's like UFC stats. It was Fight Metric, but now UFC.
Yeah,
they can't. Boxing. But here's the thing. So to that point, when I was watching it, I was blown away. I mean, that was one of the greatest. I don't know if it's the greatest, but one of the greatest. Hard to say the greatest. It was a masterpiece. But I couldn't help but think of a story that came out last week on MMA Fighting about Spencer Fisher and the state that he's in, his health, his brain. And shouldn't that fight been stopped? Like, should we have never got to those numbers? Because you can make a case in the 3rd and 4th round, either Herb Dean or Calvin Kattar's great corner, New England Cartel, who we talked so much about last week, should have stopped the fight. He was not going to win that fight. Why take all that damage?
You know, it's a very difficult call to make as a corner. And when I think people talk about Herb at times not doing what he needs to do. Herb could have stopped that fight, but we were so upset when they stopped the fight between Ankalaev and Kutalaba started punching. Calvin Kattar always started punching, right?
Yeah.
So that's what Herb sees. Herb sees the guy that he's telling to working, or at least trying to stay within the fight. So for me, I think that it was more on the corner to stop the fight.
I agree.
Because Herbert, Calvin Kattar was always aware enough to follow Herb's instructions, so he continued to fight. Now we know that Calvin Kattar and his corner, they know each other forever. They love each other. They know their guy. You don't know what their conversations are in regards to how you stop a fight. You saw what happened with Deontay Wilder, right? He fired the guy, right? Even though we all applauded the guy for doing in a big moment when most people wouldn't, he got fired. So it's like it's a hard thing to do. Fourth round is when I would have stopped the fight. That's the round where the strikes got lost. In the fourth round, Max hit him 140 times. He hit him 140 times in the fourth round. That was the round in which the fight should have been stopped. Now, for all that being said, to lose a third round 10-8 at least, fourth round 10-8 at least, for Calvin Kattar to fight at least a decent enough round to lose 10-9 in the fifth, after all that damage, shows you what kind of savage Calvin Kattar is. Is that great for the long-term health? You wouldn't think so. But, man, for a guy to get beat up in that way, you don't very often raise the appreciation level. I think Calvin Kattar somehow raised the appreciation level.
Couldn't agree more. Especially, it's rare to get that kind of love and appreciation after a one-sided fight. I just hope that it doesn't affect him for the rest of his career.
Because he's a sharp kid.
Oh, yeah, and he's been doing this for a while.
Spar.
But that's the kind of damage. I mean, that's the kind of damage that you take that affects you for a long time. By the way, speaking of sparring, that's now 2 fights in a row that Max Holloway tells us he did not spar. I was reminded of the great Allen Iverson, who once said, practice.
Yeah.
Maybe practice is overrated. What do you think? Like, should guys not spar?
Here's what's happening, right? They're more than just guys they're more than just Max that is in sparring, right? I know I say McGregor because he's fighting this weekend, right? McGregor long time ago said he plays when he spars, right? He's not necessarily always going 100%. And I think that's what Max has to be doing. Max has to be playing. He has to be putting someone in front of him in order to get off all those combinations and simulate what he's going to do in the fight. Granted, he's not getting punched in the face, but he is doing something to be so sharp in there, because you can't just show up without doing anything in that way physically and then look like he did. So he's playing. He's just not hard sparring anymore. He's got to be doing something.
Well, it's
and I'll ask him that. He's coming to play me in Madden soon. So
look at you.
I'll ask him about.
Well, he's trying. Maybe he's coming over to take your spot, because he said you're taking everything that
he read a read earlier, and I was like, wow, this dude's good. What is happening? Like, Max Holloway's good.
But I'm here to tell you right now, DC. I don't care. So on Saturday morning, I officially reported that Alexander Volkanovski is going to fight Brian Ortega on March 27th. By the way, the hope is for the heavyweight title to be the main event, Stipe versus Francis. That's not a done deal. It's been reported elsewhere. It's probably going to happen, but as of right this second, we tell you the truth over here. It's not a done deal. But I'm here to tell you, and I'd love to get your take on this. I don't care what happens in that fight. Volkanovski wins again, Ortega wins. Max Holloway should fight for the belt next.
Oh, yeah.
By the way, even if Volkanovski wins, I don't care if it's the third crack. It's a great story, because a lot of people thought that he won the second fight. And this is totally different, because some people might say, hey, you said famously many, many times, you don't want to see Benavidez DJ3. Well, the difference is Benavidez got knocked out in the second fight. The second fight in this case was so close. I want to see this Max Holloway fight. Alexander Volkanovski is probably the most interesting 145 fight they could put on. So I take back what I said leading into the fight. I want Max to fight for the belt regardless of who wins in March.
Absolutely. Because he showed improvement. That's what you want to see when there's a guy that's trying to earn a rematch, or in this case, a third fight against a champion. Like, what can you do different in order to win the fight? Well, a lot of people thought he won the second fight, so you could just point to that. That guy was enough to compete with the champ. But after what he did on Saturday, it shows that he is. I mean, if Alexander Volkanovski right now is one, he's 1A, and unless Brian Ortega has completely closed the gap, they seem to be head and shoulders above everyone else. Here's the interesting thing. Max Holloway has looked like this against most people. How much credit does Alexander Volkanovski deserve to have 2 victories over Max Holloway?
Great point.
And Alexander Volkanovski does one thing, right? And he doesn't back up. If you start going backwards against Max Holloway, you're done, because then you start absorbing. Volkanovski just doesn't retreat. He constantly tries to stay forward to not allow Max to get into such a free-flowing type of style. When Max was able to flow early in that second fight, he dropped him twice, right? Because Max had him going backwards. In that third round, Volk and his coaches decided we can't give ground anymore. And when they stopped giving ground, that's when the fight became much closer, because Max won the first 2 rounds easy. Third, fourth, and fifth was very competitive because Volkanovski made that adjustment and he stopped backing up. You cannot back up against Max Holloway. You can't. Even when he fought Dustin Poirier at 55, when he got Dustin going back, he started to have success. When Dustin was pushing him back or standing his ground, was when he was able to land big shots that were hurting Max.